Welcome everyone, this is your host Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. Oh, I don't need this. Here we go. First of all, this channel is proudly sponsored by Asilo. Asilo is a clinical and psychological horror tabletop RPG. You will find it in the description and in the pinned comment. This channel is also proudly partnered with What the Funk Shop. Please check out their store for all sorts of products. They have dice, miniatures, game master screens, home decorations, and many other things. You will find the link in the description and in the pinned comment. And make sure that you use my code for a special discount. Now let me maximize. Where are you? Uh, uh, uh. Ah, yes. Maximize. Yes, yes. Ah, getting Steam advertisements. Okay. Yes, I was saying tonight I'm going to talk about the nuances of describing or narrating your successes and failures in tabletop role-playing games. That is, when you are playing as a player character specifically, and you are successful at a task, or you fail at that task, should you narrate those successes or failures? And I will tell you why it is incorrect when it comes to pure role playing without storytelling. Just to make it really clear, there are storytelling RPG games out there, such as Raven, Children of the Fall, Hardy Boys, Team Build Riders, some elements from Durandal. There are those games where the player suddenly takes control over the game world because the player is telling a story about a particular character in a specific segment of those experiences. But when you are playing a role, you are experiencing the game world as if the fictional reality was real. You are embodying that character, or characters if you are controlling more than one player character, such as in Dungeon Crawl Classics. But just like in real life, we have no exact control over our failures or successes. We have control over our actions and even the actions that we take after the successes. Comes to our errors, this is even more obvious, even a bit more clear. When we drop something, we cannot predict exactly where the object is going to fall and if it's going to shatter into pieces, if it's going to bounce off the floor. You cannot predict that. When you suffer some sort of malady or ailment, you have no control over how that malady, ailment, disease, or whatever is going to affect your body. When you suffer a stroke, you cannot control that. If you could control the stroke, you wouldn't even be having a stroke in the first place. When you are successful at something, you cannot predict if the action that you have taken is going to go exactly as you wanted. This is an example that I often use. The case of Joe Young. I think it's Joe Young, one of the cowboys, one of the outlaws, rather, an outlaw. This outlaw received a bullet, the artery. Let me check something real quick about Joe Young. I need to verify if it's Joe Young, Joe Young, outlaw. No, Joe Young. No, it's not Joe Young. It's Joe Younger. Joe Younger. There we go. John. All right, it's John Younger because there are so many Joes and Johns and young and younger. John Younger. John Younger took a bullet to the neck. Now one would think, well, that bullet pretty much killed him, right? But no, he was still alive, and he got on his horse and rode all the way to chase the guy who shot him in the neck and finished him off before dying. You see, if you are in a combat situation and you decapitate someone in a tabletop RPG, imagine that as a real situation. You cannot predict exactly. For starters, you cannot predict that it's going to be a clean cut. Maybe it gets tangled or stuck. Some of the tendons, the bones. Maybe the head falls to the side. Maybe it falls to the front. Maybe it falls backwards. Maybe taking that into consideration, you cannot you cannot predict exactly what is going to happen in your successes and failures. That is the duty of the game master. The game master is playing the role of the entire world, including the physics of the world. Just like the weather, when the game master determines the weather for a particular day. Therefore, therefore, when you carry out your actions, you can describe everything about them. There is an exception, but we will get into that in a few moments. You can describe everything about your attempt, your action. But once the action takes effect, it's all in the hands of the game master. But here's the exception. Putting aside storytelling RPG games. Well, that's a bit sounds a bit, let's say, RPG storytelling hybrid games. That sounds better. RPG storytelling hybrid games. Taking those games as an example, in those games you have segments where you get to tell a story about your character and you get to control the failures and successes. You have complete control over the game world. Putting those aside, there are some tabletop RPGs out there that attempt to express or represent some of the tropes that you would see in, for example, cartoons, anime, video games. In video games, you have all of those awesome finishing moves in fighting games or beat 'em ups or whatnot, or even other action platformers, etc. You have some like finishing moves. In those cases, once the game master announces, depending on the system, right, that the roll was successful, if it's a game that uses rolls, it could be a diceless system or you could be using cards. Perhaps in accordance to that system, that mechanic, you could describe how you uppercut the enemy and it goes up flying. The enemy goes up into the air and you jump behind the enemy and you take the enemy from his arms and you dive downwards like a rolling crash sort of situation and you slam the enemy. And as soon as he connects with the ground, you stand on your feet, grab him by the legs, and smash him again against the ground. You see, you are playing a trope of a particular subgenre. So, in those instances, in accordance with the system, in accordance with what has been established before this, in session zero, perhaps, you can describe your actions. Rather, you can describe the effects or outcomes of your actions as failures or successes. If you do not incorporate or accept this as a storytelling mechanic, then you are not just playing a tabletop role playing game. You're doing something else. You're having a storytelling RPG experience. But when it comes to standard tabletop RPGs, like I said, Everything concerning the game world, the physics, lies in the hands of the game master. The exception being a storytelling RPG hybrid experience or those tropes, those staples from a particular subgenre. There is actually a source book for Dungeons and Dragons 3.5. 3.5. Either Dungeons and Dragons 3.5 or Pathfinder. No, 3.5. I think it was from Goodman Games that has that mechanic that when you deal the final blow, you take away the last hit point from the enemy. You get to describe a like a real time event, a staple of video games. Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, consider joining as a member using the super thanks button. Take a look at the information in the description, the pinned comment. This has been your host, Abraham L. Jaguar, a professional game master. And remember, in tabletop role playing games, you are not having a conversation about your characters. You are experiencing the game world as your characters. Once again, thank you and see you later.